Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay, a podcast focusing on meditation, the near-death experience, and all things spiritual. Hello, this is Jay Spillers with Inspire Me with Jay. My special guest today is Kristine Ovsepian. How are you, Kristine?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Jay.
And so you do life coaching. What is being a life coach about, and how does it differ from regular therapy?
So life coaching is more so about guiding individuals on a decision-making process and giving them a different perspective, perception, and just supporting them, whether it's spiritually or in a business or in their personal life, versus therapy or traditional therapy is more so it can involve diagnosing a person and it can involve psychotherapy. And that's the difference, that we don't diagnose. I'm just a guide for my clients to better their life.
And is life coaching, is part of that hypnotherapy for you? And what do you do with life coaching? Just the hypnotherapy, or do you do other things as well?
Yeah, so it just depends on my clients' needs. Some of their sessions can be just a coaching session because my clients have a lot of questions and they're lost in their life and they don't know what direction to take, or career-wise or purpose-wise or mission-wise, and they're just lost. And so I guide them and I help them through hypnotherapy also. So a session could start as a coaching session and then evolve into hypnotherapy session, because during the hypnotherapy part is when we truly clear the clutter from the person's conscious mind, so we can really tap into their beautiful gifts and talents and who they are to be. And it's just kind of like helping the person remember who they are and what they're here for.
What does hypnotherapy entail?
Hypnosis.
Yeah.
So through hypnotherapy, we're able to really clear because we live so unconsciously and subconsciously. 88% of our mind power is our subconscious, and it's the programming. And it begins from a young age. The first 7 years of our lives, we get much of our basically programming in our mind. And then what happens is throughout the years that programming is instilled through experiences and people, and it's reinforced. So it could be reinforcement of positives and negatives at the same time, or for some people it could be just more positives and they grow up to be powerful and believe in themselves and they can be and do have anything. And then a lot of times it's honestly, it's what I've seen in the past 13 years is the opposite of, kids growing up in difficult situations and not having parents that support them or guide them, or emotionally are, intelligent to be there for their children. So that affects and plants seeds in the subconscious of how we believe and what we believe about ourselves. So that's mostly what happens. And then that information becomes your subconscious belief system. So it could be positives and negatives. If there's more negatives in there, then you end up living a life feeling lost and lack of confidence, lack of self-love. And if you were, planted more seeds of positivity, then you can become a millionaire and succeed in your life and be happy and have it all. But with hypnotherapy, what we do is we always reinforce the positives, but we also, the most important part is that we clear up and heal and replace and reprogram the negatives. And that's what we do on a subconscious level, because the difference between traditional therapy and hypnotherapy is that in traditional therapy, you're just doing talk therapy. You're just activating the 12% mind power, and all you're doing is just reinforcing negativity and your stories, and you get stuck in your story and it just bleeds into your subconscious over and over and over. And that's why so many, to be kind, a traditional therapy works for many, but there comes a point that this is when my clients call me 10 years later, 5 years later, it's not doing much for me anymore. That's what I hear from my clients. I feel like I've plateaued and I'm stuck. I need something deeper. And that's when they come in to see me. It's the individuals who have realized that the traditional therapy they've outgrown and it's not working for them anymore. And now they're ready to go really deep into that, because traditional therapy more so helps individuals figure out, okay, I had childhood this trauma or this experience and that, but then it doesn't go deeper into, okay, so how do I fix it? You can't just talk about it and think it's going to change. You need to really go deep within to change it and fix it. And that's where hypnotherapy comes in. And it's the ability of the person to reprogram what doesn't work for them versus what works for them and what they desire. So that's what I do with my clients.
Was the first part of hypnotherapy to put the person in kind of a highly relaxed or meditative type state, so then you can work with them at a subconscious level?
Exactly. So the first part of hypnotherapy is always the progressive relaxation, which is a beautiful journey I take on my clients. But on average, the average person goes into hypnosis within 90 seconds anyways. But of course, we spend time in tiring out the ego mind, the logical mind, and then we tap in. It's kind of like, I call it the gatekeeper. We move the gatekeeper away so that we can get in and really make the changes. So absolutely.
Have you ever wanted to learn to meditate? Check out my book, Meditation for Everyone: How to Quickly Have a More Peaceful, Mindful, and Fulfilled Life, and support this channel. With Meditation for Everyone, you will learn to quickly and easily meditate, relieve stress and anxiety, alleviate depression, and have more joy, peace, and relaxation. What you will learn: mindfulness, the art of stillness, step by step on how to meditate, strategies for overcoming challenges to meditation, and much more. D. Mason said this is a nice meditation book, even for those already meditating. I agree with the statements that it will help to have a more peaceful, mindful, and fulfilled life. 4.6-star rating, available on Amazon. Is it easier for most people to use another person doing hypnotherapy as opposed to like some kind of self-hypnosis, or just doing it during meditation, trying to change yourself? Because that could possibly work, but maybe if you have deeper issues, you might need someone to go in there with you.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's what I hear from many of my clients. Yes, I meditate. Yes, it's great, but I still am not seeing the changes in my life. That's what I hear from my clients. And then on another level, self-hypnosis is very much, because even in hypnotherapy, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I am not forcing, or I don't have this force over my clients to hypnotize them. I just know how to communicate to their subconscious mind so that we get results. And it's in the voice, it's how words are said, it's what kind of words are said. So why it's hypnotherapy is such a powerful tool is because, number one, we all need support and help. And when you go to a professional, you kind of can let loose and say, okay, I've tried everything. Now I need someone to help me get there. So we all work, the human nature is always about, we help each other, we support each other, we guide each other. So in that sense, a lot of my clients go, yeah, I can meditate by myself, but I love it better when I come and I do this with you, and I do hypnotherapy and I see the changes with you. Otherwise, if I try to do self-hypnosis at home, I get distracted, I go into my thoughts, I get frustrated, and then it just doesn't work. So that's what it is. But here it's done with intention, and we always set intentions, and my clients clarify what we're working on before I take them on that journey.
Well, it would seem that you could sort of tailor it more, because even if you found like a hypnosis recording on YouTube or something, it's going to be kind of generalized, whereas you could go more specific for the individual person, knowing who they are.
Absolutely. And how the suggestions are given is very important as well. So we can't just, because a lot of times even on YouTube, I hear meditations done and the person is given, suggestions as far as, you will not be stressed any longer. And the subconscious doesn't hear it that way. The subconscious just hears the word stress. it doesn't hear you will no longer be stressed. So I'm very specific on how I give my clients the suggestions, to give them literal suggestions and different types of suggestions, because every person deals with things and absorbs information differently. So some receive it metaphorically, some receive it physically and literally. So I always give the suggestions to my clients in multiple different ways so that the subconscious can easily absorb it, because if it's rejecting one way, it won't reject the other way. It's about really even learning how your client's mind works. And after every session, I always, especially after the first session, I always ask my clients, were you more visual? Was it more about feelings? Was it a combination of both? Because once we figure out how the person learns and receives information, that's how we succeed. And this is what I always say in school: if teachers were to take initiative in their students and recognize, how do these children, especially the ones that are having difficult times, to focus on how is this child learning? Do they learn visually? Do they learn physically? Do they learn through hearing? Do they learn through feeling? Do they learn through, and why is it that children are so successful when they learn through tangible, touching things? Since we're little, we learn through feelings and visuals. But schools are just so much of lecture, lecture, lecture. I myself as a child had trouble because for me, listening wasn't registering. But if I sat on the board and if my teacher showed me something physical, right away, I would understand it. So it's about really learning how the mind for each individual works and receives information is when you're successful.
Well, is it typically better to frame it positive instead of saying you are no longer stressed, but to say you are calm and at peace? That might be better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
And so this can help with stress and anxiety. How does hypnotherapy specifically help with stress and anxiety?
It helps with depression, it helps with stress, it helps with anxiety, it helps with panic attacks, because typically what you're doing is, a lot of people think they're out of control, they can't control their mind, they can't control their thoughts, and their thoughts literally bleed into their physical body, and the physical body is just responding. That's what that is. But in all reality, when we understand that we do have control over our mind, over our thoughts, and when we take control, we take our power back. And that's how you succeed in doing this. It's about taking your power back and not feeling like, oh, my thoughts control me. No, we create our own thoughts. So how can what we create control us? It only controls us when we believe and think that it controls us. It cannot control us when we realize it's my own creation. Therefore, I'm going to change what I've created. If I don't like what I've created, I'm going to redo, right? Mm-hmm. But so many people think that, no, I have zero control over my own thoughts. It's not true.
So a big part of it is helping people to understand through the process that they are actually in control. Things aren't just happening to them, but that they can take control.
Absolutely. Life is not happening to us. It's happening for us and through us. And the moment we even shift the perception and perspective that we're not victims of our own lives, that alone is taking your power back. And then you're able from that space to start really tapping into the, okay, what is not working in my life? What do I need to heal? Which is why when I start healing work with my clients, I don't just go and directly attack the symptoms. That's the problem in our world, that everybody's just attacking the symptoms. The symptom is not the problem. The programming in the subconscious of the information from childhood to the present is the problem. And once you go deep into the roots of things and not just cutting the weeds from the top, right? Once you grab it and remove it from the roots is when you really have solutions. And that's why I always tell my clients, I'm not here to just put Band-Aids on you and then temporarily you feel great, and then a childhood memory comes up again 5 months from now and you go right back into it. This is about permanent healing for my clients, that we're clearing stuff from their childhood all the way to the present. And then these symptoms automatically fall away, because these symptoms are just energetic kind of zap that constantly tell, because our higher consciousness and our conscious human self are in two different vibrational states. While our ego state is in the low vibration, our higher self is in the high vibration. And this higher self is the one that people always say, I want to be happier. I want to be loved. I want to love. I want to be in a loving relationship. I want to have a beautiful family. I want to have children. So why is it that we're seeking, if we haven't had that yet in our lives, why is it that we so deeply in our like cells, we want that so much? Is because our higher self knows what that is and what it's about. But then the ego constantly wants to tell you, no, that's the unknown. No, that's not real. And then people fall into that trap and think this world and this existence and this experience is meant to be filled with suffering and struggle. And it's not. And it is our really individual responsibility, although we're not individually separate from each other. We're all consciousness as one, but each of us in our own bodies are responsible for taking our power back and taking control over the mindset so that we can all start creating a world filled with positivity and love and happiness and fulfillment. And just basically, I think the easiest way I can say this is waking up from our nightmare. I don't even want to say sleep because it's a nightmare, but waking up and really not physically waking up, but spiritually waking up and realizing that we are here to experience heaven on earth in the physical body. We're not here to suffer and struggle until we die. That's not our mission. Our mission here is to love and be loved and spread love.
Well, it seems like so much of our society is looking at symptoms, like you see the commercials for, if you're depressed, come take this particular medication and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Because it's attacking the symptom, is just numbing the person. That doesn't solve the problem. But then when you do stop taking that medication, what happens? You have 10 times worse symptoms. Why? Because it just piled up and you were just numbing it, not to feel it. Just like if we were to have local, let's say, surgery, and you numb it, and then you do the surgery and then they close it up, and afterwards they give you pain medication. Why? Because they know once that numbing is gone, the pain is going to be really bad. And that's what it is. And so why not face it now? Why are we a society that we're constantly escaping and running away instead of facing it? And that's the whole point of us even being in the physical body, that we're here to experience emotions. We're here to experience taste and touch and feeling and senses and all of that. That's why we're here. Otherwise, we wouldn't incarnate. Mm-hmm. So why are we running from the experience that we chose? Well, and that's what this is about.
Well, now it's like, not only do they say, take this pill if you're depressed, but then it's like, well, if you're on this pill and you're still depressed, we got a second pill that you can take in addition to it. And it just keeps going on and on.
Exactly. And then sometimes you start taking pills to counter all the damage that the other pills are doing. And so you're in a vicious cycle of just trying to put out fire. And that's not how healing works. It's about really diving into your shadow work and facing it instead of running away from it. I know that all too well. I used to run away from my emotions and feelings many years ago, but now I realize that the greatest empowerment that I have and feel right now is the fact that obstacles do happen in my life as well. I always am very transparent in my sessions with my clients. I tell them, do not think that I sit in this chair, I have this perfect, blissful life. Life happens here in this space for me as well, but it's how we respond to it. Do we run for the quick fix, or do we actually sit with it and give it a voice, and we allow it to, okay, tell us, what is this? Is this an emotional thing? Is it a physical thing? Is there anything I can do about it? How can I help myself? How can I support myself in a better way versus let me just go numb myself so I don't feel it? Problems don't go away by numbing ourselves. Mm-hmm. They don't resolve. They just are dormant until you stop taking that quick fix, and then it shows up. It's louder. So that's not an option.
Well, you mentioned spiritual transformation and the spiritual process. What does spiritual transformation mean to you in terms of turning our life around? Spiritual
transformation, as I always say, why do we need to hit rock bottom to begin the journey? That happened to me 13 years ago. I literally hit rock bottom, and I was on that path of every week ending up at my doctor's office with a different symptoms, and my doctor giving me some, relaxation medications, and just me wanting to, drink over the weekend to kind of not feel things, and during the week take a pill or two not to feel things, and it only made things worse. And 13 years ago, I truly, really hit rock bottom, where I was just at a place in my life and my children were so young, and I was thinking in my head all day long that my kids deserve a better mother, I deserve a better life, but it feels so dark. I had moments where I was like, this life is not worth living. And that was the hardest thing to even think that, because the way I've been raised, you don't ever think that way. And I was starting to think that way. And that was the greatest pain, but the greatest gift at the same time. So that pain doesn't have to take control over us, which is such an unfortunate thing that so many older and younger individuals in our country decide that that's the last resort. And it's not. It's never the option. It's about really saying, okay, I've hit rock bottom, but guess what? As it was in the animated movie that one of the characters said, well, if you hit rock bottom, there's only one way, up. And that's really the thought of me just truly thinking, okay, I've hit rock bottom. There's nowhere else to go. This is the bottom. So now only I can go this way, up. And that's what really, I just started praying. That was my outlet, because I didn't know anything else. And the culture that I come from, we don't believe in therapy, let alone hypnotherapy. So for me, there was no option other than prayer. I just turned to God and I started praying, and I cried and I prayed for days. And then, to me, this is my miracle, that I had a very vivid dream. And in my dream, I saw myself and I said, I remember who I am. And I woke up in the morning and took my computer. Instead of studying for the CPA exam, I Googled in hypnotherapy, and it just completely changed my life. And I went to the school and I started my master's program, and that's how my transformation started. And it doesn't mean that when I started the schools, my life was completely blissful. Absolutely not. The greatest healing, I would say, that I have gotten is not only through my children, but through each and every one of my clients. Because in really helping them, now I understand I helped myself in helping them heal. And it's the most incredible thing that every phase of my life, the moments in their transformation that I personally am experiencing, I attract those clients. And it seems like as a group together, we transition to the next level, and then to the next level, and then to the next level. I sometimes wish that throughout the years, I really recorded each, year what transformation I went through, so that I can have like a full, it's kind of like it's in there, but it's not so specific. But every phase that I go through and I think, oh, this is wonderful, another phase shows up. And this is why I tell my clients, not that spiritual journey is, oh God, never ending. Oh my God, I have to do this for the rest of my life. That's not what it's about. It's really about learning and realizing that we have so many layers, and not every layer is a dark layer. Sometimes you find layers within yourself that are just transformational and magical and beautiful, because in the clearing of the clutter, you actually find your layers of divinity and your strength and your courage and the love that you have within yourself, and the abilities you have and the skills you have and the gifts you have. And I'm just so very grateful that 99.9% of my clients, when I ask them, what is your intention for your life, especially the ones that are truly lost and they don't know, they hate their careers. I've had clients who were attorneys and prosecutors and government officials and police officers and military individuals, completely transformed their life because that world wasn't serving them anymore. And why? Because I simply asked them the question of, what is your intention? What would you love to do? Where would you love to be? And the first answer I always get from my clients is, I want to be of service. I want to help others. And that is such a heartfelt, genuine, and powerful intention. And that was my dream as well. I used to just pray and cry and say, God, help me help people. Because in accounting, I did not at all felt like I was helping people. I was just like a rat behind a computer. Sorry to say, that's how I felt. There's many accountants. My best friend is an accountant. She loves what she does. It just wasn't for me. I'm not saying accounting is bad. I'm just saying it wasn't good for me. And that's how I felt in my world. And I felt like I wasn't making any difference. I wasn't helping people. I wasn't, because for me, this world is very fulfilling of communicating. And since I was a little girl, I always loved helping people. I always loved giving guidance. So much so when I was 4 years old, I used to be a professional dancer starting 4 years old. Moms would come to me and be like, so tell us how to raise our kids and tell us what to cook. And my mom would laugh and say, you're talking to a 4-year-old, right? But I had guidance for everybody. I just knew what to say, what for them to cook and what to do. And that's who I was all my life. But our society, our world kept pushing a different path onto me. You have to go, you have to do this, you have to get this job so that you can have the income, so that you can pay your bills, so that you can have this material thing or that material thing, whatever. That's not all that matters in our life. Number one thing to me is if you don't and feel fulfilled and happy from within, everything else is pointless in your life. Everything around you feels like darkness. And that to me is the greatest transformation of being fulfilled and overflowing inside out, because our world is not outside in, it's definitely inside out. Because also what we create within, and I'm the expert in that because I know what it feels like to be empty or what experiences I had, and I know what it's like to be fulfilled and what experiences I have now. They're completely different. It's like dark and light. It's just a completely different experience. And it's all created within me by me. No one else can force it onto me. No one else can convince me about it. And no one else can really just tell me this is how you have to live. And we got to be ready to live that way. We got to be ready to transition from that end of the bridge and walk over to the other side of the bridge. And that's, to me, is transformation. You got to be ready for it.
So it sounds like obviously you could use hypnotherapy to have better mental health and to be more personally successful. But if you're open to it, there could be a spiritual component where you connect to the deeper part of yourself or your higher self, your soul, and go in a spiritual direction with it. Kind of like meditation that way too.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how I do it. While I was trained in traditional hypnotherapy, my clients don't even ask for that, in all honesty, because to me, traditional hypnotherapy is wonderful, beautiful, extremely helpful. But when we add the spiritual aspect to it, it becomes so abundant, so rich with energy and substance and flow. And that's why every time I do any healing work, even in my hypnotherapy sessions, I do a sound bath while I'm doing hypnotherapy with my clients. When we do breath work, I do energy healing, I do sound bath, I do Qigong meridian healing. There's so many elements that come into it to bring that richness of mind, body, and soul work instead of just one thing. So that's how I do it. And that's why the spiritual aspect to me is key in our transformation, not just suggestions, but like deep connected suggestions.
What is like a sound bath? Is that a certain type of music that you're playing during the session, or?
So there's music that I play, and there's sound bath through the sound bowls. When you play sound bowls, they're vibrations that really help your immune system. They raise your vibration. They're just so transformational. You can just literally just play the sound bowl and people will heal still. And I combine that with hypnotherapy because to me, it's like, it makes it more potent on a mind, body, and soul level.
What does Qigong involve?
So meridian healing, it's kind of like tapping into, and I do with tuning forks. There's specific, of course, meridians that we tap into that could be holding fear or anxiety or this or just emotions. Just like when you were to go to acupuncture and you say, I'm stressed out, and the healer, the doctor knows exactly where to stick those needles to open up the energy. I do it with tuning forks. So there's specific meridians that I would go to in the body that I learned that holds emotions. And once you place the tuning fork onto it, it helps the energy just open up and flow more instead of being stuck.
Mhm. And what do you do with breath work?
I do pranayama breath work with my clients, which is a technique that truly, once again, every time my clients come out of a breathwork session with me, they go, I've done breathwork many times. I've done it in groups, but this was transformative. Because why? Again, when my client is doing the breathwork technique, I'm doing energy healing. I'm clearing their energy centers. I'm helping them balance their chakras. I'm doing crystal healing. I'm doing aromatherapy. I'm doing sound bath. So while they're releasing all that stuff, I'm cleansing and balancing and nurturing their energy at the same time. So, and then during the rest period, they just kind of become channels to receive, and I just hold space for them. So that's what breath work is. Simply said, to me, it's like a transformative psychedelic experience without the psychedelics, because every one of my clients go, oh my God, I felt like I was on some medicine, spiritual medicine that took me to other realms. I've had clients that connected with ancestors, and I had a full on communication and experience with them during a breathwork session. I've had clients that connected to great grandmothers. And I mean, so many. I've had clients that connected to a business adventure, and it literally within 3 months, that business adventure started up, and this person is doing that business now. So anything can happen depending on our intentions.
So is the breath work very intense breathing, where you breathe in deeply, hold and exhale for like 15, 20 minutes or something? Will you go really deep with it?
Yeah, so pranayama breathing, so it's a specific breathing technique that is recommended, especially for people who have not done it before, to not do it by themselves, because there could be a lot of emotional release during that process, and you want a professional by your side. I'm always, watching and looking at my client's energy and how it's kind of shifting, and there's just a lot that happens in that process, and you want somebody by your side to support and guide you, for you not to be alone by yourself, because sometimes my clients can go through a very powerful emotional release, and you don't want to be all by yourself because it could feel traumatic. But when I'm there to support them, to whisper into their ear loving words of guidance, and bringing energy healing, and for them just knowing that in this moment where I feel, I've had breathwork sessions with clients that look like an exorcism, and while my client in that moment was like, what is this, what is happening, I was the calm, I was the gentleness, I was the love that just came in and said, this is all okay, this is all normal. And I helped her calm down, because if a person is not there and the individual goes through that, and there's no one there to tell them this is normal, this is okay, you're just having a big, powerful release, a person can end up coming back traumatized and being afraid instead of being healed. So that's the most important part. And it's not just in regular breathing, because a lot of my clients tell me, is it the box healing? I mean, breathing, it's not. It's a very specific, it's the 2 breaths in, 1 breath out process. And it's intense, and you can amplify it, make it stronger, depending on how deep you want to go, or you can lower the gauge, because I'm careful with what my client is, comfortable with, so that this process is always a healing process, and not something where my ego comes in and goes, oh, I'm going to give you like this powerful experience. It's not about that. It's not about me. It's about my client's healing. So every individual, again, even with the breath work, even with the energy healing I do, it's tailored to their needs. One person I may do sound bath, one person I may not do, one person I may do like aromatherapy, and another client may not. I just go with my intuition of what I'm being called, but all of those are available in the session to my client. It just depends, and even the order of how it's done, every time it's different, because every individual's energy works differently. Mm-hmm. So that's what it is. And that's why it's so important to, when we tap into this healing work, to really get the support of a professional. Don't try to do it all by yourself. Doing it all by yourself, I always tell my clients, Yes, I'm your healer, but I also have healers for me. I go to other healers for my stuff because who am I to say, oh, I have it all together? No, we all need support. We all need guidance. So that's what this is about. As my clients come to me, I go to other healers for my stuff, whether it's physical or emotional. We all just support and help each other. And that to me is the full circle of love and light being spread.
So is that where a lot of the trauma and emotional blocks are released, is when you're doing very intense sessions with all these different things?
Hypnotherapy, past life regression can be that as well for many of my clients. So many questions can be answered that are not really in a place of my client being able to answer them. I always tell my clients, the experiences you've had in this lifetime, if there's no root to it, there's no explanation for it of why these things are happening, in your life, then we tap into past lives, because past life regression is another technique that is extremely powerful in helping us to release stories, memories, experiences beyond this lifetime that could very much be affecting negatively. If it's positive, wonderful. We don't touch it. We just bless it and say more of that. But when it's negative, and for an example, a lot of times my clients come in and they, ask me, why is it that this specific pattern of relationships come? And if I ask them, okay, in your lifetime, in this lifetime as a child, did you experience anything traumatic from childhood? Let's say if it's with the male energy and they're like, no, my father's amazing. And then we clearly understand that it's not really. And I ask them, have you had any traumatic relationships in this lifetime, like love relationships? And they go, no, there's no reason why I feel the way I feel. And then we realize that, okay, then this must be coming from a past life and it's being triggered in this lifetime because you need to work through it and you need to face it. So past life regression, breath work, hypnotherapy are three of my most favorite techniques that are truly permanently transformative in our lives.
So in terms of do you tend to work one-on-one with people, or can you do it online? Do you work online with some of these things too?
Absolutely. I do individual work. Before COVID, I was doing a lot of workshops and retreats around the world. But since COVID, I've slowed things down because things are still kind of challenging. Every country has their own unique requirements, but workshops are done, and I do my sessions because I have clients all over the world. So I do sessions virtually and in person. Even many of my LA clients don't want to deal with the traffic anymore, so we just do virtual sessions.
So if people want to get in contact with you, do you have a website? Do you have books that you have written and projects that you're doing now that you'd like to share?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the gift would be if anyone is interested, they can go on my website. I have a free stress relieving meditation available. If they sign up for the newsletter, they can go to www.journeystoheal.com, and that is JOURNEYSTOHEAL.com. And I have my first book on there, which has been out for years now, Living Through Choice. And my second book is in the process of being published, and that will be added to the website soon. But I also have meditations on there that they can purchase. And I have programs, 7 chakra healing program. I have a fear releasing program, and I have a manifestation program on there.
Well, thanks for coming on today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Jay.